Welcome back to the Knock-On Effect, the rugby show where we say what the pundits won't. The URC quarterfinals are all wrapped up, and what a weekend of rugby it was. In today's video, we're going to take a look back at all the action and answer the question, was that moment good theatre or bad form? Let's get stuck in. Kicking things off, let's take a look at Friday night's fixture between Glasgow and the Stormers. The Stormers came out all guns blazing and really showed they were there to fight. Unfortunately for them, they were nowhere near as clinical as the Warriors. The presence of Tuipulotu in Glasgow's midfield was noticeable as he barged his way through the Stormers all game long. Rowe and Rory Darge got the Warriors off the blocks, and while the first 40 minutes were relatively close, the second half left no one in doubt of who the better team is. Final score 36-18. Glasgow were clinical in attack, dangerous in the counter, and nothing short of imposing in defence. The Stormers, however, missed 39 tackles, with a tackle success rate of 69%. While that is obviously not good enough for this standards, it goes to show how physical the Warriors were. This was a vastly different performance than what we have seen in round 18 in the URC in Dublin, and that's great news for Glasgow fans, as they'll be back there soon. Next up, the Bulls in Edinburgh. The Bulls were the form team heading into this one, and it was always going to be an uphill battle for Edinburgh, but by God did they put up a good fight. The Bulls got an early yellow card for a high shot on Darcy Graham, which in all honesty I thought was extremely lucky to only be a yellow. Early tries from Wes Goosen and Thompson not only capitalised on the one-man advantage, but really put Edinburgh in the driving seat. The Bulls did extremely well to keep within a score of Edinburgh thanks to their lethal counter-attacks, Kriel having his pick of the tries before the break. The second half picked up where we left off, with the Bulls having all the momentum. Canan Moodie almost hacked his way through for a wonder try as the Bulls began to pull away. It was Edinburgh's turn to fight their way back into the match this time, and they did so with a try from Ashman. However, they couldn't really capitalise as Thompson soon received a yellow of his own for a deliberate knock-on, right after the Bulls got a yellow for an accumulation of penalties. The Bulls did well to control the final parts of the game, and while Edinburgh gave everything they had, it wasn't enough. Final score 42-33. Fair play to Edinburgh, a gutsy and hard fought performance. It wasn't to be, but they can absolutely hold their heads high. The Bulls show two different parts of their game here. They can not only be utterly lethal in counter-attack, but due to ill discipline, Edinburgh were able to get at them here. They'll have to tighten things up a bit in the semi-finals if they're to book a place in the final. Back in the Aviva, we saw Leinster take on the Scarlets. The boys in blue started fast, with two tries from James Lowe and Jamison Gibson Park. The fire faded, however, as the Scarlets looked to disrupt Leinster's flow by any cost. Tom Rogers crashed the whitewash, and while it looked like Leinster were about to do more damage before the break, a fumble from Prendergast gifted Blair Murray a try and gave Scarlets the hope. Prendergast made up for his previous error with a beautiful dink over the top, setting up a try for Jamie Osbourne early in the second half. The benches came on and Leinster used their firepower to suffocate the Scarlets. Sheehan in particular driving Leinster on. A well executed attack from Hugo Keenan saw Leinster cross the try line again, and the game pretty much fizzled out. Final score 33-21. It's like having Ferraris and using them to spread silage. Good man, Dunners. Honestly, I thought that was a very accurate analysis of what we've seen from Leinster this season. They have the ability to up the tempo and go for the jugular, but yet again, we're seeing them hesitate in the business end of the season. The Scarlets gave a great account of themselves, but they don't have the depth or quality that Leinster do. I think if Leinster came up against Edinburgh or even the Stormers, just a team with a bit more firepower here, they could have been in serious trouble. Glasgow absolutely have the ability to hurt them. What I'd love to see from Leinster next week is to bring the fight to Glasgow and stop trying to overthink everything. It's not a question of whether Leinster will win, but more so, will Leinster lose? Right, let's get into it. The Sharks versus Munster. Munster dealt well with the early pressure from the Sharks, and Crowley's crossfield kick to Nash gave Munster the lead and all the confidence. Being able to keep the Sharks scoreless in the first 40 minutes was big, but realistically, they didn't offer a whole lot in attack. It was very one-dimensional. It was during this period that I thought we could have capitalised more. There was a huge amount of kick tennis and errors, frustrating both teams and most fans. The second half saw the Sharks cross the try line thanks to a brilliant offload from Tuipulotu, leading to their first try. 2 tries from Munster's Josh Wycherley and Diarmaid Kilgallen saw Munster take an 11-point lead. The Sharks fought back, however, and a try from Afile Fassi put them close. A penalty gifted to the Sharks for Gavin Coombs not clearing the runway, as the ref put it, handed them a nail to the coffin. Conor Murray nailed a peach of a penalty from 40 odd metres out, keeping our hopes alive. In all honesty, the extra time period was largely us clinging on for dear life as our exhausted and injured front row were targeted scrum after scrum, and then came the penalty shootouts. Which leads us to the question, was that moment good theatre or bad form? Listen, I'd love to hear your takes in the comments. The goal with this channel is to offer a fan's perspective, and I want to get your perspective too. But as a Munster fan, I fucking hated that. Jaden Hendrikse is an absolute muppet. The gamesmanship, if you want to call it that, was in such poor taste. It was just grade A shithousery. I'm all for handbags and a few choice words in the heat of the battle, but Hendrikse, his actions were honestly rotten. What was even worse was seeing the coaching staff have a go at Rory Scannell. He's just such an unassuming character. I mean, Crowley was well able to give as good as he got, but for the Sharks coaches to be acting like that, the apple doesn't fall far when it comes to their players. Just a complete and utter lack of humility, just no decorum, completely classless. Now, if the URC fined Mac Hansen for his comments earlier in the season, they absolutely must fine Hendrikse and the Sharks here. This was a quarter-final, big viewership, and an awful representation of our sport. This isn't what rugby is about. But you know what? We saw O'Mahony leave his heart on the pitch one last time. Stephen Archer put in an all-merciful shift. Conor Murray nailed his late penalty. Crowley fighting back against Hendrikse, and what about Niall Scannell shoving in place his dislocated finger to carry on? We may have just witnessed what our sport doesn't stand for, but we also absolutely saw what makes it special. I think all in all, Munster have been below par, all season really, and while the Sharks were the better team, I'm telling you one thing, form is temporary, but pride is forever. And in my opinion, the Sharks did themselves, us, and the sport dirty here. Let us know what you made of it all in the comments, and be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss a beat. Cheers for watching, and as always, catch you at the next one.